students, Mrs. Girot here. So I wanted to just give you some instructions about what to do this week. So this week you are going to take the skills that you gained, I believe it was units 5 and 6 where you did some drawing, and you're going to create a vintage poster. Now please don't just limit yourself to drawing skills. I want you to be thinking about all of the things that you learned from the Andy Warhol project, and pull all of that together, okay? And let's get really creative here. This is a project, so this is where you get to kind of put together everything that you've learned. So just talking about some core standards. These are from visual art standards, okay? So we've kind of talked about these a little bit when we did our critique. We are going to be starting with making connections, okay? We want to do something that's meaningful personally, and we want to also connect that with some external content. What is external content? It can be literature, the movies, something going on in the news. That's external content. All right, so access, evaluate, and integrate personal and external resources to inform the creation of original media artwork. So we want to be informed. We want to be informed by our personal feelings about something, and we also want to be informed by being aware of different points of view about that subject. So just like when you are writing a paper in your English class or any class, you've got to go out and you've got to do some research and find some sources and see what different viewpoints say about the topic, right? That's what being informed means. And then at the bottom, considering ethics and media literacy. So understanding the power that different symbols and words have is media literacy. And social media, you know, thinking about when you exhibit your art or a work such as this on a social media site, what type of response would you get? You know that people on social media are really hungry for controversial things, right? They just eat it up, okay? So you want to be considering ethics. You want to be considering, am I hurting somebody by stating my message this way? You don't want to hurt people, right? You want to make a message, but you want to also be sensitive to people and be aware of how your words and symbols can impact others. So I'm going to just give you an example. So let's go back. What are we doing? We're creating a vintage poster, okay? That's our goal. So this example is a topic of, let's say that my topic that I chose was the value of animals. Animals mean a lot to me. I think they're special, and I love that they have a place in this world. So let's say my goal is to make a vintage poster about zoos. So the first thing I want to do is connect internally and externally, like we talked about, right? So why should I connect? Why? All right, gather resources to inspire your creativity. So first of all, when you start making a work of art, one of the things that you might do, let's say you want to do something on zoos, is you might just go out and research and what have other people done? Or we're doing a vintage poster. Let's look at some other vintage posters. I want to get inspired. What is a vintage poster? And so gathering research helps to get you excited and give you some ideas about what you want to do, okay? So it's a little bit different than copying someone else. It's just pulling ideas together and synthesizing them to create an original work of art. So get informed about your topic. That's another reason to connect, okay? You go out there and do some research on a topic and you might be surprised by what you find. It might change your perspective. Thinking about how your audience is going to react. So connecting to your audience and seeing all the different types of people that could be impacted by your message. Get evidence to support your claim. So hopefully if you're making a message and you're stating a claim about something that you believe in, that you have evidence to back that up. So let's say somebody does slam you on social media. You know, I've done my homework and I believe in my message and I can support it with evidence besides just my own opinion, right? How to connect externally, all right? So you can look up YouTube videos, You can do Google searches and find articles and blogs. You can interview family and friends and get their opinions on things. So be objective, okay? Objective means that you are going to stand back and you're going to be open to that information, and you are not going to cast judgments. The evidence is going to point to what it points to, and you're going to be humble and be accepting of what the evidence points to, okay? So for me, I could step back and I could easily say, I hate zoos. I don't like going to zoos because it makes me cry to see animals caged up. It makes me so sad. So I go out and I do some research, and I find, wow, there are actually a lot more pros to zoos than I anticipated. And I actually didn't think that I'd actually ever say that, wow, I think zoos might be doing some good in this world. But then I can also find a lot of cons that support my feelings that already exist, right? The hard thing is to learn to accept the other side of the argument, right? But thinking about that, let's say I go ahead and I do my research. Now I want to connect internally. So how do I feel about all of that? And what is this message that I want to make? So I'm going to reflect on that. I might journal about it. I might write about it. And then I might start sketching and putting together some ideas for what I want to communicate to my audience and how I'm going to do that in this program called GIMP, right? With photographs that I might pull off of the internet from Creative Commons, or photographs that I might myself have taken and I want to use. So how am I going to put this all together? All right, so some more standards. So the next step now is to create, right? So you're going to conceptualize, which is kind of what you've been doing. You're going to generate or create, develop, and organize your artistic ideas. So that's kind of what we've been doing, right? But we also need to make them physical. We need to put them into the 3D. And if you think about it on the computer screen, it's actually 2D, but you're putting it into the real world. You're making it a real thing that other people can see. So you're going to apply that aesthetic criteria, okay? What is aesthetic criteria? Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. Aesthetic criteria. So aesthetics are related to beauty, okay? So be thinking about aesthetic criteria. You know, we talked about in that first critique how some students could have gotten a little closer, zoomed in, and had a more precise selection, and that would have made it more aesthetically pleasing for the viewer. So be thinking about aesthetics when you're doing your work, all of those details. What can you do to make a pristine product? All right, you're going to be planning, considering original inspiration. So that's your internal inspiration, right? Your goals to create the vintage poster and the context of it. So who's the audience? Choose an audience that you would be presenting this to. If you could, if money were not an issue and you could produce this poster, where would you want it to be hung? Where would you want it to be so that people could see it? Who is your audience, okay? Stylistic convention. So be thinking just stylistically about the type of text that you're going to use, the colors, all of that. So those are stylistic conventions. And so here are some examples of vintage posters, okay? And just keep in mind that the way that the text is used and the color schemes, right? In vintage posters. The color schemes are really a telltale of whether something is vintage or not. Sorry, my phone is blowing up. So look at these color schemes. Now what you can do is you can actually grab a poster, copy it, and paste it as a layer in GIMP. You could actually just paste it off to the side of your canvas. That'd make more sense too. And you can use your little dropper tool and grab the colors right out of the poster and use those. And I show you how to do that in a tutorial. So look at these posters, and they're making a message too, right? So be thinking about the message, how they're giving it. Notice they don't use a lot of words, right? And the text is large and bold, and we can read it very easily. So these are some great vintage posters. Don't be foolish. Haha, a play on words can be fun. You know, you can even, do your own cartoon work and import your drawings and paint your own drawings. You don't even have to grab something from the internet. If you like to sketch, you can create your own sketch and then use that as your base layer and color over on top of it and make that original sketch invisible. So there's all kinds of different ways that you could go about this assignment. But I just want to give you some examples of vintage posters so that you get an idea of kind of what you're going for. All right. So there are some different ideas just to kind of get the gears cranking in your mind, right? And what do you call this kind of advertising? Hitler made it. It starts with a P. What is propaganda? Right? So essentially, you're kind of creating a little bit of propaganda. And then there was this really great article that I found. What is the artist's role in society? It is a fantastic article. Artists are a vehicle for expressing universal emotion. They're responsible for unearthing the truth. They work to illuminate the margins and make societal changes. They tell stories and pass on traditions. They connect with and inspire people globally. Artists record and preserve our human history. Artists offer messages of hope. They are ambassadors of the natural world. Artists create a sense of community. Perfect. Okay, so I'll share with you that link. Who do you choose? So these are some examples of zoo posters, vintage zoo posters that students have made, because I actually did this assignment where I didn't let the students choose what they did their poster. They had to do a vintage zoo and they had to choose a side. But I like the idea that we're expanding now, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to base your poster on your chosen topic. So these are just examples. Howl for freedom. Animals need more leg room. Is the zoo really safe? Come over and see the zoo. Now this one right here, I want to show you as an example of be careful. You don't want to put too much text. You want your viewer to be, and plus the color of this text, it doesn't pop. It doesn't have good contrast with this background. A white text would have really popped, but fewer text, fewer words, okay? Keep it really simple, your message. Helping birds reclaim their place in the wild. Don't sleep on it. Visit your local zoo now. Putting a lizard in a cage is taking away his right as an American. Just so you know, American is capitalized. Keep the zoos open. Still the king. Zoos need to change. Help us rescue endangered species. Support your zoo. Don't leave me alone. Come visit me at the zoo. Okay, so those are some different ideas of the ways that students can approach the exact same, project differently. So your objectives are to use a vintage color palette in your poster, create a message for your viewer, and think about how are you going to use those GIMP tools to accomplish that. Think about all those things that you've learned so far. Now, if you are at this point, you're like, I don't know where to start. Well, I've got a video tutorial where I make my vintage zoo poster, and I don't want you to be limited to what I did there, okay? I want you to go above and beyond what I did, and I know that you will, because that's what students do. But I do have a tutorial in there in the content, so you are welcome to kind of follow along with that and get your traction so that you kind of get lifted, get started, and know what you're doing. And as usual, your assignment is due on Sunday, so enjoy, have the whole week to get it done, and then we will critique it. We're not going to have class the following Friday, and so maybe we'll figure out a way to do some kind of a critique before you leave for your Thanksgiving break. Does that sound good? All right.